So we're going to talk about two specific women in this video today, and I want you to take a guess. I'm going to give you a hint. I'm a trauma, attachment, and couples therapist. I love reality TV, and I love to psychoanalyze people that go on reality TV. So yeah, take a wild guess. Let's talk about it. And let me preface by saying that anything I say here cannot act as a formal diagnosis. Anything that I do conclude is simply from assumption. I'm taking information that I'm exposed to about these women or about any of the people that I talk about, and that is it. It is not factual. It is not definitive. It is simply my own opinion from my own professional expertise. So agree with me, take it with a grain of salt, do what you will with this information. Besides the obvious, right, being Huda and Taylor's behavior, I wanted to talk about something quick before we get into that. One of the commonalities that I see between these women is the fan base's undying loyalty to these women despite their toxic behavior. Both fan bases will continue to condone and excuse and overlook toxic and abusive tendencies for years, or I guess in Huda's case, a year, until it hits a breaking point, aka this past week. But even then, there are still fans remaining. The reason why I wanted to talk about this is one of the biggest causes of harmful, toxic tendencies in people with platforms is the enabling of that behavior. They see their fans loving it, glorifying it, excusing it, relating to it, condoning it, and protecting them. So they don't have that incentive to change because their brand is not getting tarnished in the process. But most importantly, I wanted to talk about the why. Why is it so easy for these consumers, these fans, to constantly overlook toxic and or abusive behavior? And we've talked about this before, and it doesn't take a therapist to understand this take. But it is so much easier to find someone that mirrors your behavior because it condones your behavior, instead of aligning yourself with people that challenge your behavior. Because if you have to challenge someone else, if you have to condemn someone else that reminds you of you, that reminds you of the parts of yourself that you may be ashamed of deep down, it's as if you're condemning yourself. And you're afraid of doing that because having to condemn your own actions, having to take accountability, requires sitting with shame. And that's something that I haven't heard a lot of people talk about on this app. This idea that sitting with shame is so uncomfortable that you rather stay stagnant, that you rather avoid accountability and growth and healing. Because if you tell yourself what I'm doing is wrong, you mistaken that for thinking that means you are a bad person, you are flawed, you're a failure, you're not enough. By pointing out your own flaws, by pointing out your own mistakes, it's as if you're confirming the insecurity that you have within yourself. Taking accountability and owning up to your mistakes does not make you a bad person. It does not make you a failure. It does not make you flawed. It makes you human. Being able to highlight and own up to your weaknesses is actually a strength. What if I told you that? What if I told you that condemning someone that reminds you of you is not self-abandonment? It actually means that you hold yourself to a higher standard and you know that you could do better and be better. Instead of looking at someone, especially a reality TV star, and saying, hey, you know what? I relate to her so much. Therefore, what she's doing is okay. Reframing that into the parts of me that I'm ashamed of, the parts of me that make me feel uncomfortable, the painful parts of me relate to her. But that doesn't define me. And just as I know I could do better, I know that she could do better too if she tried. And I hope she can. If you absolutely decided that you have to be a fan of this person, have faith that that person can heal and be a better version of themselves. At the very least, want better for this person that you adore so much and look up to. And I know it can feel so validating to see someone that you look up to emulate those parts of you, that relate to those parts of you, look or sound or act just like you, because it makes you feel like what you're doing is okay and therefore you're not unworthy. You're not a mistake. You're not a fuck up. It makes you feel like you're not alone. But what if I told you you don't need that validation to know that you're not alone? We have all done things we're not proud of. I sure as hell have done some things that were extremely toxic in the past that I'm not proud of. You're not lonely in your pain. Because honestly, the hard truth is if you condone these women's behavior simply because it reminds you of your own, it means you truly don't believe in yourself. You don't believe that you have the capacity to do better or be better, when in reality you can. And I'm not saying it's easy. It will be extremely uncomfortable. It will be difficult, but difficult does not mean impossible. And there's a quote I used to always tell, and I still tell my clients to this day. If it doesn't challenge you, it will never change you. I know wanting to stay exactly the same, wanting to be stagnant is comfortable. But the thing is, it's not sustainable. Just like a muscle, it needs to tear before it grows. And just like a muscle, soreness and discomfort is a sign of growth. Not staying in your comfort zone because it's easy. Pick up the heavier weight. With that being said, I have my thoughts on both Huda and Taylor. I think there's a lot of commonalities between those women specifically, how they operate, what their triggers are, and what I think that they both have. But I will make a separate video on that because that's just a whole other conversation.